Hi, I'm Rose McDonough and I'm a retired family consumer science teacher. I have been asked by Sam to show how to make a white sauce. She said each time that she does it, it doesn't turn out real well. White sauces are so simple. It's 1 part fat, 1 part thickener. And then if you've used 1 cup or 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons, then you're 3 times on cups on your milk. So I have 3 tablespoons of butter that I'm starting out with, and I surely didn't mean that to be so hot, but that's what happened. So I've got 3 tablespoons of butter, and if you've listened to anything I've told you before, I don't use margarine, I prefer butter. So you can use margarine, but I'm going to use butter. So first I'm going to melt the butter up. Be careful not to brown it, which is why I've turned my heat down a little bit on there. So I have my 3 tablespoons, and to that you're going to add your thickener. I have 3 tablespoons, so I need 3 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to shake the flour over top of it. That's all you do is shake it. If I was only using 1 cup of milk, I would just be using 1 tablespoon and 1 tablespoon of butter or of fat and 1 tablespoon of my thickener, which is flour. You don't always have to use that. I'm pulling this off because it's thickening way faster than I planned on it to be. It's going to look basically like this. I should have pulled the butter a little bit sooner because it was a little brown. It's going to be fine. Nobody's going to know it was a little bit brown except for me, because later on I'm making macaroni and cheese. I don't do store-bought macaroni and cheese. This is my kind of macaroni and cheese. So 3 tablespoons of a fat, 3 tablespoons of a thickener, and now I'm going to slowly add in my 3 cups of butter. Why do you have to make sure that your flour is completely mixed in? Because if not, if you try to add it in at a later time, it's going to lump. And okay, so maybe sometimes I try to thicken up and I have to add a little bit more later. But for right now, I don't want it to be lumpy. I'm trying to make sure it's not. I'm using, of course, a rubber scraper, but you can use a whisk. I just don't like the whisk that I have because it's metal, and I don't like using metal on my pan. So that's why I'm using the rubber scraper. I have another whisk that is not metal, but I have to have my hand way down in, and I don't like the heat starting to get to my hand. All right, so the question is, how are you going to know when this is done? There's 2 parts. 1, it's going to thicken. The second part is going to be that you're going to taste it. It's not going to taste like salt, it's not going to taste like pepper because I didn't actually put any in there. You can put this in now, but I'm not choosing to do that. What you're going to taste for later is flour. I don't eat flour as a general rule. Well, you'll know. You start tasting it. Once it's thickened, I will usually go like this and drip something onto my finger, and I'll taste it. If it still tastes like flour, you need to cook it a little longer. It's the easiest way, and this isn't just for a white sauce. This is if you're making homemade puddings from scratch. You need to do the same thing. Anytime you are adding flour, you need to be tasting it. So I'm starting to smell. I can smell the milk now, and you can probably see the steam coming off. So I'm minutes away from it starting to thicken up. So I'm going to add another ingredient. No one else will tell you to add this. But if you've worked with any of my recipes before, you know that I always tell you I like to add prepared mustard. It gives it a little bit of a bite. It gives it a little bit of a flavor to it. And so I'm going to stir in about a tablespoon of mustard. You're not going to even notice it in there, except that I will because of the flavor. I have to use my rubber scraper and get the rest of that out. So you're not going to taste a whole lot of that mustard, but you'll get that bitey flavor to it. And it's going to be 1 teaspoon. But of course I've tripled this, so that's why I had a full tablespoon. If you can tell, it's thickening up very nicely. I'm just scraping it. I'm making sure I'm getting off the bottom. And now I'm going to just lift it up. And believe me, this is going to be hot, so I don't want to be burning my fingers. It's going to finish heating up on the heat that is left in there, and I'm going to begin adding some processed cheddar cheese. How much, you might ask? I don't know. It's a terrible thing. I never measure this out. I go for a look. I'm looking for it to be a beautiful color of orange, and that's how I'll know that it will be cheesy enough. You can see now it's starting to slow down on how quickly it is melting because I have turned it off. It's finished cooking on the heat that was left in this burner. But this is about all I need it to do. It's going to be nicely melted. It's going to have a rich, cheesy flavor to it. So I'm melting the cheese, and at this time I can add some salt. I could add some pepper. Some people choose to add white pepper instead. I also sometimes add some seasoned salt or some lemon pepper seasoning to it. Depends on who my audience is, who's going to be at my dinner table. Make sure I'm going all the way around the bottom. I'm actually folding the rubber scraper to make sure you get off the bottom. I've gotten off the bottom. I'm good to go. I'm taking my 3 cups of pre-cooked noodles over here, which of course I'm just using elbow macaroni, and I'm going to pour this over. Oh, it's so rich, so beautiful. Why would anyone use that weird box stuff when you can make beautiful homemade macaroni and cheese? If you're looking at this, you're gonna think, oh, doesn't it look a little soupy? It does look a little soupy. Just give it about 3 or 4 minutes and it will thicken up just beautifully. By the time you get everything else ready for the table, you're going to have perfect macaroni and cheese. So what we're having for dinner tonight is salmon. Macaroni and cheese is our side dish because everybody loves comfort food. And then we're going to have a kale salad. You choose to have whatever you want. You could at this time stir in peas if you wanted to or something, but I'm going to have everything served separately. This is Rose McDonough. I appreciate that you came to look to see how to make homemade macaroni and cheese with a white sauce today. And I'd like you to give me a thumbs up and subscribe and come back maybe in another day or two and see what else is cooking.